This is for yourself, Councillor Steele. So the Scottish Government has previously identified potential bridges in the Western Isles, and of course it has its islands connectivity plan. But you've said that no further action has been taken since. Now, I may be putting this question to the wrong person, but I'll have a go. Why do you think that is? Why has there been no progress on this?
It's an interesting question. So, when we discussed STPR2, where the fixed links have been put in, our feedback was that we were very much looking for our spinal route, road network, and the inter-island transport, be that air or ferries, to be included, and it wasn't as such. So, for us, the spinal route would be obviously the link from the north to the south. We work slightly backwards in the Western Isles, so we've got the Butt or Barra in the north, and we've got Barra Head in the south. So, so we're trying to connect all the way down. So obviously fixed links will be part of that conversation, and has been for a number of years. But unfortunately, we're in almost daily dialogue with the Scottish Government about transport. But it's not fixed links, it's ferries, because we've had so many issues over the last few years. It's been our focus, and like I say, pretty much every conversation we have with them is about resilience in the network and issues with vessel availability and deployment plans and the impact that's having. So, we were concerned that it didn't include those things that we asked for in terms of the spinal route, and air links especially. They're really, really important in terms of getting people access to the hospitals, coming from Barra all the way up through to Uist to the hospital in Stornoway. You're talking 2-3 day trip for an appointment. So why we haven't had further discussions, I'm not 100% sure. I think it might just be the distraction of that, but we are engaging with Transport Scotland on it, and there's going to be a series of community consultations and engagement on the fixed links. We are also going to try and ask them to include a potential for a fixed link to the mainland, just to gauge views, because ultimately, are we looking long term to connect ourselves to the mainland Scotland? It might be something, it might not be something that the islanders are looking to do, but I think seeing as we're doing a consultation on fixed links, it's going to be really, really important. But yeah, in terms of engagement, an awful lot of our time is taken up with ferries.
So, I think members of the public, particularly residents, your constituents, would be a bit baffled given the island's connectivity plan specifically identifies the opportunities for more resilient transport links with the replacement of ferries. So it is odd that this hasn't really been taken forward, but I do understand the urgency in addressing the issues with ferries. So you mentioned that there will be further discussions upcoming with Transport Scotland. Will that be focusing on fixed links? Yeah.
So there's going to be, I think in the autumn, I believe we've got something scheduled for a series of engagements throughout the islands on fixed links. So that we have a discussion just in the recent past.
Okay, so, and will that be to take the conversation forward in light of the islands connectivity?
Yeah, it'll be linked to that, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Councillor Robinson, if I could now ask you if you could possibly give us an update on the feasibility study for tunnels in Shetland. Given this committee has recently visited the Faroe Islands, I think we'd be really keen to understand where you are in that journey at the moment.
Mm-hmm, yeah. I know that Andy Sloan from COWI is speaking to you in a later session, so I'll maybe not go into the technical detail that I expect he will want to get into, but we contracted with COWI and Stantec and an engineering firm to try to find out what the best options were to actually build a tunnel in Shetland. And as part of that process, we identified the Yell Sound route as just an example that we would use to find out the real cost, and that involved working up the scheme, working up what would be needed, how it would meet with all the current legislation and everything, and then our contractors engaged with actual tunnel builders to go out to them and say, well, if we presented you this as a project now, how would you cost that? So we have actually had 3 companies that are experienced tunnel builders that have come back to us and said, that this is what we believe it would cost, this is what we would tender if you promoted that tomorrow. We have those figures. We've only just recently got them back, and I can't share them today, but we will be sharing them next month. And I'll make sure that we send those on to the committee so that you get those and you can see what's involved with constructing tunnels and what the cost is.
I think that would be very helpful. Yeah. Thank you. So when will you complete the feasibility study, and what do you think the next steps are after that?
The feasibility study is due to come back to Shetland Islands Council at the end of next month. I think our meeting on the 30th of June. I think there has been a change in meetings, but I think that meeting was to have been the 1st of July and it's been pulled forward to the 30th, or vice versa, but I think it's back to the 30th. So we will have that coming in very short order.
Okay, is that something that could be shared with us?
Yeah, indeed. It'll be published a week before that meeting, and we'll make sure that you get that as well.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Questions from Kirsteen Sullivan.
Mr Sloan, obviously transport is a devolved issue in Scotland, but do you believe that there's a strategic case for the UK government's involvement in any tunnel project for Shetland?
Part of that is routes to funding. You may or may not have heard, and you will understand about the funding of the Fair Isle ferry. I don't know whether you heard that in an earlier session. It all depends on whether to deliver these tunnels we need political champions. It's all the feasibility, engineering feasibility is without question. The transformative impact of fixing communities in these tunnels is beyond question. And really the central part is, do you as politicians in London or Edinburgh want to deliver these things? From my perspective, really probably comes down to a combination of the two. It needs to be a collaboration between Westminster and Edinburgh, and a cross-party, a cross-government look and say, do we want to look after our peripheral communities, our island communities? If we do, then Shetland Island Council, with the study that it has, we've completed the study now, is in the best position that any community has ever been in to deliver fixed links. We know that they can be delivered, and we've gone through the process of delivering. So it's a bit of a convoluted question. I think there's a weight and a need for politicians both in Edinburgh and London to support this and to champion this cause.
Do you think that a project to deliver tunnels for Shetland could still go ahead without UK government involvement? And again, I do stress that transport is a devolved matter in Scotland, so I'm just wondering your view if the UK government, if it didn't provide financial support for such a project, if it could go ahead.
So the Tunnels from Transport Scotland, the STRP2 document and policy, there was no mention of tunnels in Shetland. And Shetland Island Council are very keen on exploring the options available to them. But I think because my feeling is that left to the council very much by Edinburgh to say, you go on and do it. And because, quite rightly, I suppose, Transport Scotland are saying, well, it's not part of the trunk road network, which we're responsible for. They're all council roads, so you're responsible. So that sort of, whether it's politically correct or not, it's not for me to say, but it kind of leads into the need, I think, for both governments to lean in. We did explore routes to funding, and I'll come on to that if questions, but in all cases, there needs to be government backing to delivery.
Well, one question I raised in the previous session was around the island's connectivity plan, which identified that more fixed links would be beneficial rather than relying on ferries. But it would seem that there was no funding put behind this. Would you agree that that's the case, and do you believe that there should have been perhaps a more robust route outlined to actually delivering on what was set out in that plan?
I can only really talk to Shetland because that's where I've been doing most of my work over the last couple of decades. And we're looking at the moment at studying, giving the councillors there the tools to say, across this piece of water, it's either a ferry or a tunnel, and here are the options through the appropriate appraisal process. What's true is that there's no, because of the age of the fleet, which is pretty old, there is no do-nothing solution here in Shetland. So it's not an apparently expensive tunnel versus nothing. There needs to be investment across the whole piece. So what's behind your question, I'm guessing, is there needs to be investment, whether it's a fixed link or new ferries in the ports and everything. Not a cheap option at all. And, you have to keep replacing them every 30 odd years. So simple answer, yes, there needs to be more.
Thank you.